A few years ago, a big production revolution took place straight out of Europe. TV series 1899 pioneered an extraordinary way of producing things, simulating environments, basically creating a whole film set on a stage in Studio Babelsberg. That at the time was the largest virtual production stage in Europe. Right now, what we're really seeing is virtual production is becoming a huge opportunity, not only across the Atlantic or in Asia, but also Europe as well. The technology is there, we have the skills, but what do we actually need to make or take and make virtual production a viable opportunity for European independent sector, and how can we not be left behind? About that, I have a great pleasure to probably invite, or most likely to invite, the two best experts on virtual production in Europe, Christina Caspers-Römer from Trixter and Nils Pauwels from IIM. Welcome.
Where are we? There we go. Hello.
Hello, everyone. So we will talk with you in the upcoming 15 to 20 minutes about our NGO, the IIM, the Institute of Immersive Media, why we have created it, what we're doing with it, and maybe also how you can support going forward. These are the topics we're covering. And starting, obviously, with introducing ourselves. I'm Christina Caspers. I'm one of the co-founders of IIM. And as Stan has already mentioned, besides this, I'm running a VFX company based in Europe, in Germany. And we're mainly working with international clients, Marvel, Disney, and the large streaming vendors.
Two of our other co-founders are Patrice Fontaine from Lyon in France, a very clever technologist, and Lucas Tucknut from the UK. He's a cameraman, and obviously myself. My name is Nils Pauwels. Pleasure to be here. I'm also one of the co-founders of IIM, and I am the owner of a company called Immersive Media. Immersive Productions. Today we're here to talk about the convergence of technology and creativity. Art and technology are becoming increasingly linked to each other, and they can aid each other. Every form of storytelling is currently being aided by any form of technology. Obviously, we work in film, so for us, virtual production is one of the key points. However, it is very much a cross-disciplinary skill set. So everything is now combining. And it's cross-platform as well. So we're talking games, game technology helping film production working on social media being integrated into the marketing of, so it's completely, everything is becoming one. Game, film, music, art, creativity, everything is becoming technical. With IIM, we found that there is a gap between the available technology to creatives, to decision makers, and also to policy makers, and the technology itself. So we try to bridge that gap. For example, we develop a curriculum for schools or for other people. We do tech workshops. We do organize technical events during film festivals and so on. But one of our other spear points is that our initiatives support the expression of Europe's rich cultural diversity through new mediums, and therefore hopefully contributing to the European identity in this current digital age.
So we talk about why is an institution like IIM needed, and one of the basic ideas is to democratize filmmaking, because the entry level to come in and join this really very attractive market is always very high. And then people start with jobs that they might not want to take on, and we come in as an NGO and saying, okay, you can try out different angles of the media and entertainment industry, and you can find out if you like to work in it. And this also if you're already working in parts of it. For example, if you're in creative and you want to find out how to move forward with including virtual production, for example, you can work with us in finding the sweet spot to do so. And of course, vice versa, bringing the awareness to the technicians how creatives work. So this is one of our main goals why we try to prepare the filmmaking of the futures and the people for the filmmaking in the future.
But why do we do that as a non-profit, Christina?
That's a quite good question.
I'm so glad you asked. We find that in order to express the need of all involved parties, whether you're a creative or a technologist, whether you're a decision maker or a policy maker, there needs to be an independent voice being able to express that. And as a non-profit, we are completely transparent. And for us, I think one of the most important things is that we're not associated to any brands, and therefore we can give our honest opinion and share that with the world throughout every possible medium we are being given. Obviously, there's also loads of other interesting side points to being non-profit, including working with large companies that would typically not want to be associated to brands, and also hear their experience from the field. As do we, because we also have our own day-to-day work, and we do this as a side job. And so we come from the field, but we're not here to promote our own companies. We're here to talk about IAM.
Absolutely. And when we're talking about IAM, we're always thinking, okay, how do we need to move forward in order to embrace the creatives and the technologists in the film industry even more? And then we obviously come to the point that we need to standardize certain systems in order to be able to collaborate more and improve a general knowledge. And even if we do not always want to see it in the EU, but we still are using, or we're already using standards. These standards are currently coming mainly or totally from the States, because there they have larger budgets and therefore larger creative freedom, and therefore larger creative or technologist perspectives or tryouts to do things. We're experiencing this every day with our companies. That's true, because when we have, like, for example, when there is a studio coming in from the States, they want us to adopt their workflows. Starting from hardware and software, that we always now work with USD. This is simplified a system where you get a software in, then there is something in between, and you can work on the other side with another vendor on the same plates. Same applies for cloud-based workflows and pipelines, where we're saying, okay, how can we work more transparent together? This is when client and vendors are looking at the same tool, the same status of a project, and how can we collaborate more openly in terms of budgets, in terms of next steps in creativity, and also next steps of finalizing a project, which often becomes very crucial short before the deadlines. We all know that. And what's happening with this? It's a little bit complicated, because what we're currently doing here, at least from our perspective, we're doing this training while we're on projects, on paid projects, and we don't have the time to do an R&D while we're not on these. And this means double stress and less sales or less revenue for the companies that are working on these US standards. So what we want to do, or what we're doing, we're giving workshops, and we're embracing people to learn this upfront, so that when they are coming into large-scale productions, they already know what they can anticipate.
So let's talk a little bit about the industry outlook. Today, now is the time for change. We are, as Europe, falling behind America, the UK, and Asia. Especially with the results of the election in the US, we cannot expect anything coming from there, and everything that is coming from the US is going straight into the UK. So we have an excellent opportunity today to become a better version of ourselves, but we need to do it as a whole. And that is part of the problem. The EU is currently pretty fragmented due to the large cultural and the language differences. The fundings, all the incentives, etc., are local, and they have their own rules and so on. As IAM, we strive to make this more uniform across the EU.
Definitely. And one of the points that we're here about is we don't want to say that these good ideas are not existing here, but we need to put more focus on also putting these ideas into reality. And this is a part where we're working on, and what we're currently facing is that this is coming less from politics or overall organizations, but from large media company vendors, not naming anybody, but these companies are coming and saying, hey, can we do some round tables and talk about AI policies, I know we have an AI Act, but still, how can we use this AI Act in real production life? And exactly, bringing these round tables to a more and broader and more visible audience, this is what we're aiming to do. And this is something we certainly think that is super important to move forward with.
Exactly, and just to add to that, that these large media companies are not doing it for the benefit of
everybody,
mostly for themselves. What you're seeing here is the Gartner hype cycle. This is a graph that is being used for every technical advancement out there. So this one we've modified slightly, specifically for virtual production and or what we call in-camera visual effects. There's always an innovation trigger for every new technology. In this case, it was the behind the scenes of a Disney series called The Mandalorian, which was released 2 weeks before COVID happened, and that the peak of inflated expectation is exactly what has happened mid-COVID, because that was one of the only ways we could still make content, and obviously the demand for content during COVID was huge. After that, and this is a word I've always find very difficult to pronounce, the throw of disillusionment. Sorry, through. There you go. Sorry. I'm not a native English speaker.
That's called lifelong learning, though.
Exactly,
thank you very much.
Yeah. As you can see, we are slightly behind. The US and Asia are already climbing and are nearing the plateau of creativity, or the stabilization part. In Europe, we're still behind. We are just climbing out of the disillusionment and making our way upwards, but we could use a little push.
Absolutely, and I would like to give you an example that I have experienced firsthand in my company, so I can say you it's unfortunately definitely happening. We're collaborating on one large project with a large US vendor, and of course, as a VFX company, you have to get funding to get a certain rebate to get the projects in. So when we're applying for funding, we're doing this in Germany as the vendor, and we're collaborating and need some information from our clients from the States. So then we're looking together, because obviously our clients also wants to check if these letters that they need to send to us are correct. So they are letting their legal and policy departments check the websites of these funding authorities. And the unfortunate truth is that the German version of the website does not match with the English version of the website. This means before we even start a project, we're already running into discussion, bureaucracy, hurdles, and more discussions. We have not even started on a creative point yet. And this is an easy to solve example, because we could simply match that, or I hope the funding authorities match it soon. But it shows that we do have these great ideas in the EU to make this funding for large films happening. But the execution is sometimes something we would say we can booster to a next level. So, and this is what we're also going when we're talking about communication.
Speaking of.
So, exactly. And these are 4 things we would like to also emphasize when talking to people in European roles that have a certain influence on these things, starting with easy accessible funding for institutions like IIM, meaning we're all working full-time. So we do this for the love of filmmaking and for the love of supporting and upskilling and reskilling people, because we can't stay at the level where we are at the moment everywhere, not only in the media and entertainment industry. So we would love to have a certain support from the government to be able to execute even more workshops and stuff. Not only workshops, but one of the most things is networking and getting people together. Another thing quite important, unified tax incentives for pre-production, for principal photography, and for post-production, because what's currently happening, productions go to the state where they get the most or best tax incentive. This doesn't mean that they go where the best location is, where they find the best skilled people, so they bring the best skilled people, and this doesn't help the country to and the industry to develop. So if we have this as a unified level, it would help the whole industry.
Nor does it help creativity.
That's true, though, too. And then we're also talking about having more extended delegation travels, which means like have delegations travels for smaller companies. Invite more, engage them to collaborate and network, because if we always see the same 10 companies doing this, it's getting boring. And last but definitely not least, we need more innovation hubs. We need to have playgrounds and sandboxes for creatives and technologists to try things out that they don't feel ashamed when they go to a production and have to try something new out, because it eases the entry level for new technology and also for the technologists who work more creative.
So, why the Institute of Immersive Media? We are able, because of our network and our history in the industry, to offer a very broad communication, and we want to use it exactly for that. Obviously, every communication is always one of the most important things, and to bring the message out there is exactly what we do. Together with our partners, we can bring industry insights. Again, we're not associated to any brands, so we can offer a real valuable insights, because we actually have our hands dirty from working on film sets. And I'll leave the last one to you.
Thank you so much. So yes, and last but again not least, we have to upskill and reskill our people, because the industry has changed a lot. We're having less budgets and need to produce even greater content, and especially reskilling people is a huge topic everywhere in Europe. And secondly, bringing our new talents on sets and into work. Not only teaching them theoretical knowledge, but bringing also industry experts to the universities. I know that a lot of universities are doing this, but also a lot of universities are not doing it. And having more hands-on workshops. When we bring new people into our companies, for example, we're experiencing a lot that they are lacking exactly this industry experience. And I'm not saying that we could change this immediately because they are starters, but we could give them an easier entry level if we let them work more hands-on. So this is what we really, really would like to emphasize. We have actually 20 seconds left.
For some Q&A. Is there any questions? We'll make it really fast. No, actually, I think, are we okay if there are any questions?